What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 6 of the HooperCast. I'm your host, Hawan, aka Courtside Capital. It's been a long time since we recorded. We recorded last Tuesday, I'm pretty sure, and that was after those first two games of the NBA season where we were reacting to those. But now we're just gonna, go over how every team's doing. Just in retrospect, how what will happen with their team. We'll give our predictions. And started off with the Boston Celtics. You have them at. Let me see. Let me open this up. All right. You have them at 3-1. They edged out wins against the Sixers, the Heat, and the Magic. And they also lost last night to the Bulls, 120 to 102. This team is really, really good. Even after losing their head coach and Ime Udoka, this team just looks amazing on paper. If on the court as well, they're just gelling together, and Joe Mazzulla has done an amazing job. Using those schemes that what's his name? Ime Udoka used to use, and Joe Mazzulla was a assistant for Ime Udoka last year when they made that finals run, so he knows what it takes to coach a finals team, what it takes to make one of those finals runs. So he's been doing amazing for this team as a head coach. The Jays have just been amazing. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the first game they dropped 35 apiece. JT had a 40 piece against the Magic. I could definitely see this team, probably maybe getting the top seed in the East as well. I think in my conference standing predictions, I had them number 3 behind Philly, who we'll talk about, and the Bucks as well. We'll talk about as well, who are doing pretty good. Their next 5 games against Cleveland, Washington, Cleveland again, Chicago, and New York. I could see them maybe, I don't know, they can get 4-1. Definitely can go 4-1. Maybe 3-2, but I don't see them going negative in this stretch. They can probably edge out wins against New York, maybe Washington. They'll definitely edge out one of those wins against Cleveland. We'll see about Chicago. They're gonna be on that revenge game, so they could definitely go 4-1. My prediction is they go 4-1 in the next 5 games. Next, let's look at the Brooklyn Nets, who lost last night to the Grizzlies, 134-124. They have only played 3 games so far. And Ben Simmons fouled out this game. He only had, I think, 7 points. There's a stat. He has 17 points and 14 fouls in 3 games. He almost has as much as fouls as points. That's insane to think about because this team is just gelling together. They need that chemistry. They're missing that chemistry that a championship team that like them have. They're a really, really good team. They got Kyrie, KD, Royce O'Neal, Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, Patty Mills, Seth Curry, who's injured right now. You still got TJ Warren. You got Cam Thomas. This team has a lot of depth. And this team has a lot of shooting, and shooting really wins you games in this league. So I could definitely see them, later on down the line when they fix their chemistry issues, they can definitely make a run going down into around All-Star break, maybe post All-Star break, close to the NBA playoffs. They can definitely make that big run that everybody expects them to make as such a good team. And last night I think it was like the last couple plays of the game, Kyrie got switched on, not got switched on, but they set a screen. Steven Adams got switched on to Kyrie. He was dribble, drove past Steven Adams, kicked out to the wing where Royce O'Neal was wide open, and he passed up that shot. I mean, Royce O'Neal wasn't having a good shooting game, 2 of 7, but still, it's Royce O'Neal. He passed it up in the corner, to his left to Patty Mills, who was lightly contested. He took that 3 to hit the top of the backboard. And after the Grizzlies got the rebound, you could see on Kyrie's face and his hand gestures that he was telling Royce O'Neal, why did you shoot that, bro? Like, you were wide open. Royce O'Neal needs to shoot that stuff. He needs to let that shit go. You're a shooter. And you're a 3-and-D player. That's your role on this team. You can't just pass up wide open threes. He was basically wide open the next defender was Patty Mills' defender, who was to his left. Like he would have to fully rotate to him, and he didn't even fully rotate. He just passed it to him. I think in his mind, he was thinking, "Oh, Patty Mills' defender is going to rotate to me, and Patty's going to be wide open," but that didn't happen. So but we'll see how this team plays. I can definitely see them. They see some chemistry issues. Their next 5 are against Milwaukee, Dallas, back to back against Indy, and then Chicago on the first. I could see them maybe rolling out to a 3-2 start right there. Next 5, they'll probably lose to Milwaukee, which is tomorrow night, and then Dallas. I could see them winning the next 3 games against Indy twice, and then Chicago. So my prediction is 3-2 right now. In the next 5, we'll go over the standings, what the current standings are right now. Probably after we go over every team. We're just gonna go with take a dive into every team and see how they're playing right now. Next is the Knicks, who are 2-1. They're playing pretty decent right now. They lost against Memphis in that overtime game, which was an amazing game. I think it was on Wednesday, right? Yeah, they didn't play on Tuesday. It was on Wednesday, where they almost edged out a win. They lost by 3, 115 to 112. They won against Detroit in Orlando, which are two games they were supposed to win. But that's one sign, if you think about it, that's one sign of a good, pretty decent team. Good to decent to an amazing team, that they always beat those bad bottom tier teams. And you're expected to win those games against, like, you're supposed to edge out games against Charlotte, Orlando, Detroit, OKC, Utah, not Utah, but those bad teams. You're supposed to edge out wins against them if you're a really, really good team, and they're showing signs of being a good, decent team. I could definitely see them making a play in. I do not see them missing the playoffs at all. I don't think they will miss the playoffs. But yeah, I don't think they're gonna miss the playoffs. Julius Randle has been playing amazing. Right now, Julius is averaging 21.39, 0.7, 3.3 rebounds per game. Jalen Brunson has just fit together amazing with this team. Isaiah Hartenstein was an amazing addition to this team. He played like 40 minutes in that Memphis game. But Isaiah Hartenstein has been an amazing addition to this team. He's playing amazing off the bench for this team, because Mitchell Robinson is starting for that team right now. So I could definitely see this team, in their next 5 is Charlotte, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Atlanta, and Philly. I can see them edging out maybe 3-2, possibly 4-1. 4-1 is a stretch. They can either go 2-3 or 3-2. My prediction is 3-2. They'll win against Charlotte. They'll probably lose against Milwaukee. And then I think they'll win against Cleveland and Atlanta, and they'll lose against Philly. That's what my prediction is right now. Or they can probably lose one of those games against Cleveland and Atlanta, and they'll go 2-3. But we'll see how they play out. But we'll see how they do going into December. That's when it matters. That's when with those winning and losing games. Right now, it's start of the season. We'll talk about the Sixers next, but that's when it matters most. Is in December, January, February. That's when those seedings matter in the middle of the season. And then obviously it matters at the end, like in the last 10 days of the season, where seeding matters, which teams you want to play in the playoffs. And if you make that play-in push, if you're like out of the play-in, you want to make that push, or even if you're the 9th seed, you want to make that push to home court advantage in the play-in, and try to get to the 8 seed, 7-8 seed in the play-in. So we'll see how that works out. Next is the Sixers, who are 1-3. They edged out a win last night against Indiana, which was expected 100%, but too close for my liking. I'm pretty sure it's a pretty close game throughout the tenure of the game, and at the end the Sixers just pulled through. They lost against San Antonio. I think on 2 nights, Saturday. Yeah, they lost against San Antonio. Embiid had 40 and 13, and it was the most least. It was, I don't know. it was the least energetic 40-point game I've seen out of the start. He was so out of it. I don't know how he dropped 40. Um, and they lost against Milwaukee and they lost against Boston the first two games of the season. Um, but I don't know, man. There's a stat I was looking at. Shout out to Kenny. I was watching his video last night, and he was showing a stat where post Harden trade last year, the touches of the Sixers team went from 88. Harden's touches for the Sixers was 88, and Joel Embiid was 80 post Harden. Um, and I think next was Tyrese Maxey with 64, something like that. And now you look at that, and right now, start of the season, first 4 games of the season, it's Harden has 101 touches, and I think second is Tyrese Maxey with like 80, and Joel Embiid has like 73 touches. That's just crazy to think about. And Joel Embiid is not getting the ball too much, and he's not even calling for it that much. They're like running pick and roll combinations with James Harden, Joel Embiid, and when that happens, James Harden just gets that pick and just tries to score off that pick. He doesn't try to find Joel Embiid. I mean, sometimes he does find him, but they're trying to play that Houston type ball. That I saw something on Twitter. It's the Houston 76ers. But if they don't edge, we'll talk about those next 5 games. If they don't edge out those next 5 games, maybe if they go 0-5, which I do not see happening, or maybe 1-4, which is pretty hard to happen. Even 2-3. Not even Joel Embiid. Doc Rivers is going to be in the hot seat as well. He's a pretty decent coach for this team, but questions are going to be rising of how he's coaching this team and how he's supposed to be coaching this team. Questions are going to rise for that. So their next 5 games are against Toronto back-to-back, which is going to be a mini-series up in Toronto, against Chicago and Washington in back-to-back. So they're on a 4-game road trip after their win against Indiana. I could definitely see them winning 3 or 2. They'll probably win one up there in Toronto. They'll beat Chicago, and they'll definitely win against Washington. We'll see how that turns out as well. I hope they can edge out 3 of those games. So my prediction is 3-2, but they could definitely go 2-3, even 1-4. But my prediction is 3-2 in those next 5 games. Next is the Toronto Raptors, who right now sit at 2-2 in the East. They won their first game against Cleveland, 108-105, which was an amazing game. And then they lost against Brooklyn and Miami on back-to-backs. And then they beat Miami again last night, 98-90. I'm really happy of how good Siakam's playing. Pascal Siakam is playing. He's taking that aggressive role of and he's trying to prove everybody wrong, and he's trying to prove that he can. And right now, he is a top 10 player in this league. I just want to say that. And he's trying to prove everybody wrong, and he wants to prove that he is a top 5 player in this league. And I could see that happening 100%, but this team will have to take a big leap in order for Pascal to even get into that top 5 player discussion. This team probably might have to be the top 4 seed for him to even come in those MVP discussions, or even in those top 5 player discussions. So we'll see how that turns out as well. Next person, man, I'm blanking right now. Precious Achua, sorry. He had 11 points, 22 rebounds off the bench for this Raptors team, which is absolutely amazing. I loved how he played. He just came off the bench and just went off for this Raptors team. Fred VanVleet last night was their leading scorer with 24. Pascal is, like I said, I can definitely see him being in MVP discussions if he keeps up this type of play. Their next 5 games are against Philly back-to-back at home. Philly are coming for a mini-series. And then you got Atlanta, San Antonio, and Dallas. I can definitely see them going 3-2, possibly 4-1. I can see them winning one of those games up there in Philly. they could be Atlanta, San Antonio, and Dallas. I could see them going 4-1. Honestly, I could see them going 4-1. I'm gonna be looking out for that Atlanta game and those two Philly games. It's gonna be nice, really, really good games. Um, so that's with the Raptors. So I can see them going 4-1 in the next five. Next, let's go to the Central Division with the Chicago Bulls, who are currently sitting at 2-2 in the East. They won their first game against Miami 160-106. And then they lost back to backs against Washington 102-100. And then Cleveland 128-96 on Saturday. And they beat Boston last night at home 120-106. 120-102. Sorry about that. The story of this team right now is DeMar and Vooch. DeMar has just been playing absolutely amazing for this team. He had back-to-back 30 plus games. I think he had 30. Oh, he had 37 first, 32 against Washington in the second game. If this team can make the top six, I can definitely see him in MVP discussions. But that's going to be tough looking at how many good teams there are in the East. The competition out east is absolutely amazing. It's like a battle every night in the Eastern Conference. You look at the schedule every night. It's amazing games coming out of the Eastern Conference. And Vucevic is at first I thought that the Bulls had completely lost his trade. But if Vucevic keeps playing the way he's playing right now, he's putting up like 15 and 23. I think that's what he had last night. That's gonna be a huge part for how good this Bulls team is. He has to play amazing for this Bulls team to even be in the discussion of being those top teams in the East. I mean, Zach LaVine came off injury against the Cavs, which they lost 120-96. But for me, the biggest X factor for this team is Vucevic. And at this point, I still believe the Orlando Magic won this trade because they got Franz Wagner off that pick from the Bulls in 2021, and they still have Wendell Carter, who's a huge part of their young core, and they still have a 2023 top four protected. So and I don't see that pick is definitely going to Orlando. I don't see the Bulls getting into a top four seed the way they're playing right now. They're definitely getting into, that would be probably like a 16, 17, 18 overall pick. So we'll see how that goes. The next five games are against Indy, San Antonio, Philly, Brooklyn, and Charlotte. Ooh. I could see them going like 3-2, possibly 4-1. I don't know if they'll edge out any games against Philly and Brooklyn, but they'll definitely be Indy, San Antonio, and Charlotte. So I'm gonna say 3-2 at this point. And I hope the Brooklyn Nets click so they can beat so the Nets could, be pretty good. That's what we all want to see right now. Next is the Cavs, who are currently sitting at 2-1. They lost against Toronto their first game, 108-105. And then they beat Chicago and Washington on back-to-backs. And they beat Washington last night. Was that last night? I thought that was last night. Or no, that was Sunday night. In overtime, 117-107. And Donovan Mitchell has just been 100% the story of this team. He's just been playing absolutely berserk. He's been going berserk. He's 30 plus in all three games, 31 in the first, 32 in the second, and 37 in the third. I mean, Darius Garland has not been playing for this team. You have Darius Garland out. You have Ricky Rubio out. He hasn't played since I think that Raptors game where I think he butted heads with he bumped I forgot. I think it was a leg injury. I think he bumped knees with not Jared Allen. I think it was Pascal Siakam. Yeah, I think it was Pascal Siakam, and he hasn't played a minute after that. But I hope he comes back healthy. And this team definitely needs a point guard like that. I mean, they've been winning games. Their next five are against Orlando, Boston, New York, Boston again, and then Detroit. Ooh. It's a pretty tough schedule. Back Boston twice. I guess they could go 3-2. Um, Boston is a tough team to face. I guess they could go 3-2. Um, but we'll see how that plays out. I think they might lose those two games against Boston. Boston, the Celtics are looking hot right now. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. They can probably edge out. Maybe they can go 4-1, but I'm gonna go 3-2. They'll definitely be Orlando, New York, and Detroit. Um, against those two Boston games are looking tough for them. The next team is the Detroit Pistons, who are 1-2 currently. Um, they looked amazing in that first game. Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren looked amazing. Um, they still look pretty good. Sadiq Bey was their leading scorer in the second game against the Knicks, which they lost 130-106. There's not a lot to say about this team except those young rookies and Jalen Duren, who's 18 years old by the way, and Jaden Ivey. Um, I'm just tuning in to watch those two. And Cade Cunningham did say they want to make a play-in spot, but or at least compete for the play-in. But if I was the Pistons, I don't know if I would do that. Probably I wouldn't tank, but I'll see how we'll see how this team goes. Their next five are against Washington, Atlanta, twice back to back at home. They're at home against the Warriors, and then they're going on the road to Milwaukee. Um, Maybe 1-4. I could see them going 0-5 as well. Because all five of these teams are better than them, but they could probably edge out a win against one of them. Probably Washington. But we'll see. Sorry, I'm stretching right now because it's pretty early in the morning right now here on Tuesday. So yeah, they could probably get to like 1-5 if you think about it. Yeah, the 1-5. Oh, I mean 1-4, sorry, or 0-5. I'm gonna go with 1-5 because I think they could edge out a win against one of those five teams. Um, Next is the where's Indiana Pacers at? Yeah, next to the Indiana Pacers, who are currently 1-3. They lost last night against Philly, which I thought they were gonna win because it was a really close game. I just thought Philly was gonna fold, but they lost that game. They beat the Pistons in on Saturday, 124-115. Um, and then they lost to Washington and San Antonio. There's not enough to say about this. A lot to say about this team as well. There's not going to be a lot to say about those rebuilding teams. But for me, the story of this team is definitely going to be Tyrese Halliburton. I just want to see him blossom. I want to see how good he plays with a team of his own, a team that he has himself. So we'll see how good they play, and I hope they edge out those big games, against like Detroit and San Antonio and Washington. But we'll see how good they play. And then their next five are against Chicago, Washington, Brooklyn, back to backs. I think they're going for a mini series against Brooklyn and to Barclays, and then versus the Heat. They could probably go. I don't know, 1-4, maybe 2-4. They can probably edge out one of those wins, one or two of those wins. But like I said against Detroit, I said 1-5. I mean, 1-4. I guess I'll go with the same with that. I think they can edge out one of those games. They could possibly go 0-5 as well. But 1-4 is my prediction. With those rebuilding teams, you can definitely see them, getting into that. We're losing 5 games in a row. You can definitely see that happening with those rebuilding teams. We'll see. Next is the Bucks, who have only played 2 games, who were 2-0. They beat the Sixers and they beat the Rockets at home. Giannis had 44-12 in that game, and he had 21 and 13 and 8 in that Philly game, which was a slow scoring game. But watching that Philly game, I always knew that the Bucks were gonna edge out that game because of how much confidence Giannis had in himself and in the team. They just know how to play together. They've been together for a long time. I think the newest addition to that team was Javon Carter, who's in Joe Ingles. I don't think he's playing right now. But Javon Carter, who played last year as well. So this team has been together for a long, long time, and they know how to fit together. Um, yeah, I mean they played 2 games so far, um, and their next 5 are against Brooklyn, New York, Atlanta, Detroit, back to back. They're hosting them for a series we just talked about right now. Um, they can probably go like 4-1 in this. I see them winning those 2 games against Detroit. That's 2 right there. Probably they'll win against New York and Atlanta and Brooklyn. They can go 4-1, 3-2. But I'm gonna go with 4-1. I don't know if they'll win against Brooklyn. I because Brooklyn is coming off that revenge game against Memphis where they lost by 10. It was a pretty close game throughout, but they lost by 10. So we'll see how that turns out. For me, I'm gonna say they're gonna go like 4-1. Just to stay safe. They could go 5-0. But that's what every good team, they can win the next 5. But we'll see how that turns out. Next is the Atlanta Hawks, who are 2-1. They beat 2 bad teams, Houston and Orlando, back to back. They've only faced bad teams, and they lost to Charlotte 126-109. Surprising loss on Sunday. The story for this team is definitely how DeJounte and Trey matchup. I did say, I think, in my Eastern Conference standings prediction for the YouTube video, where I did say that this team can definitely make a top 6 seed appearance, like make the top 6. But for that, Trey Young and DeJounte Murray both have to, fit together perfectly and not, be stiff. They were stiff in those first 2 games, even though they were against bad teams. It was pretty close for my liking. And I think against that on Friday, it was like John Collins, Trey Young, and DeJounte Murray all 3 had like 20 plus. In that big 3 had like 20 plus. Trey Young had like 25. DeJounte had like 23, and John Collins had like 23 as well. So if they play like that against good teams, they're not going to face a good team until like Saturday, because they're here hosting. They're going to Detroit for back-to-back, 2 back-to-back games against Detroit, and then Milwaukee and Toronto and New York. That's the next 5 games. I could see them going like 3-2, definitely. I could probably see them winning against New York. In those 2 Detroit games, and they'll probably lose against Milwaukee and Toronto. They could go 4-1, but I'm gonna say 3-2 at this point right now. For the Hawks. Now let's go to the Charlotte Hornets, who are 2-1 as well. LaMelo has not played yet. He has yet to play a game. But we'll see how LaMelo coming back turns out. Right now, it's just been the Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier show. They're taking turns of just dropping 20 bombs. They won against San Antonio the first game. They lost against New Orleans, and then they won against Atlanta 126-109. But we'll see how good they play when LaMelo comes back. I still think they're not going to be a playoff team or a play-in team with the loss of Miles Bridges and not having a reliable center. They did draft Mark Williams, but I don't think he's playing that many minutes. There's like Nick Richards that they're playing. They're playing I think one Mason Plumlee, right? I think it's Mason Plumlee. One of the Plumlee brothers is playing in that on that team as a starting center. So and then their next 5 is against New York, Orlando, Golden State, in SAC, and Chicago. They can definitely go. They'll play edge out a win against like Orlando and New York, but maybe Sacramento, who are 0-3. But I could see them going like 2-3, 1-4. I don't know what the timetable for LaMelo is. I think it was like 2 weeks. He'll be back in like 2 weeks. But we'll see how that turns out as well. So yeah, but my prediction is like 1-4 the next 5 for the Hornets. The Miami Heat right now are 1-3 currently. They lost against Chicago their first game of the season, where DeMar just went ballistic with 37. They lost against Boston 111-104. They lost against Toronto 112-109. And they lost against Toronto again. Actually, they won against Toronto. The first win was against Toronto, 112-109. And then their last game, which was last night, they lost against Toronto 98-90. Um, this team is playing pretty decent. Jimmy Butler and everybody. There's the main piece for them. The X factor for them is going to be Bam Adebayo, how good he plays with this team, how good he meshes with this team. But we'll see how that turns out um for them. So I think they can edge out a top. They'll definitely make the top six in my opinion. I'll be surprised if they make the play in. Um, but I'll be surprised if they don't come in the top six. They just need some time together. They still don't have a good decent power forward. They've been in talks for Jay Crowder bringing him back, but we'll see how that turns out as well. Their next five is against Portland, Golden State, Sac, and then Golden State again, and then Sacramento again. Um, they can probably go like 3-2, and that they can probably beat. They'll probably lose those two games against Golden State. They're facing Portland tomorrow, too, who are 4-0. I think the Heat is the team that will snap that 4-game win streak for the Portland Trailblazers. So I think they can go 3-2 or 2-3. Maybe they'll beat Sac. Oh no, they'll go 3-2. My fault. They'll lose those two games against Golden State, and they'll edge out those 3 games against Portland, Sacktown, and those 2 games against Sacktown. So yeah, I'll say 3-2 in the next 5. So next, let's go to the Orlando Magic, right? Damn, my internet's bugging right now. I don't know why it's not loading. All right, so Orlando Magic, like it matters anyway, because they're 0-4. But the Orlando Magic right now are 0-4. They lost all 4 of their games to Detroit, Atlanta, Boston, and New York. The next 5 are in Cleveland, Charlotte, Dallas, OKC, and Golden State. I don't know, man. I'll just say they'll go 1-4. They'll edge out a win against Charlotte or OKC. I think OKC are like 0-3 too. So that's gonna be a fun game. The battle, the Wembanyama battle. That's what I'm gonna start calling them. The two bad teams when they face the Wembanyama battle. The battle for Wembanyama. It's gonna be insane. Even though Adam Silver did say that he's trying to penalize teams from tanking. I think it was like a proposed thing, but that's not gonna happen. If like you lose too many games, you get demoted to the G League. G League team gets promoted up. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. I think that's like in soccer. I think out there in Europe, of the Champions or the Premier League, where if you're not a good team, I think you get demoted down, and then if you're a good team, you get promoted up. It's something like that. Adam Silver did say that he's not even thinking about that. Because the draft does help teams in a way that's one of the ways of rebuilding a team is through the draft. So Adam Silver says I don't think that's ever going to happen. So we'll see, but we'll see what the penalty for tanking too much will be. Yeah, I mean, for the Orlando Magic, the story has to be like Paulo Banchero. He's been playing absolutely amazing. He's like has like four 20-point games. Um, yeah, I think he's had 4 20-point games. I think he's like been at the top for this team for a minute. Um, and I think I don't know when the last time a rookie has had 4 20-point games. I think that probably was LeBron, back in 03. So we'll see how that turns out. Um, and last but not least, is the Wizards, who are 2-1. They won against Indiana and Chicago. They lost on Sunday in overtime to the Cavs, we talked about. The teams look pretty good. You got Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal just playing amazing. And I just look at Kyle Kuzma playing for this team. Ooh. I just look at Kyle Kuzma. Yeah. Like I was saying, I just look at Kyle Kuzma playing for this team and see how and think like how good the Lakers would have been if they had sticked with Kyle Kuzma. Besides Russ, I mean they did trade KCP, Kuz, and I think Montrezl Harrell was a part of that trade as well, and a couple of picks, um, for Russ. But at that time, I mean, literally everybody in the NBA world was like, "Yo, the Lakers look dangerous." Maybe like a couple of people were like, "Damn, that's not a good trade. That doesn't fit." I mean, that is true. But everybody was just so locked in on the star-studded side of this because if you don't remember, in Washington, Russell Westbrook was like that same triple double monster in the month like March and April. He was like going off. He was like 30, 11, 12, something like that. He was the one that carried the Wizards to the playoff seeding. I think they were the 8th seed against Philly, and they lost in like 4 or 5 in 21 playoffs. So but we'll see how this team plays. I definitely see them as a playing team 100%. Um, let's see. The next 5 are against Detroit, Indiana, Boston, Philly twice. They can edge out to like 3-2. They'll definitely be 2-3. They could be 3-2 though. I'm gonna go with 3-2. That's gonna be my prediction. They're gonna go with 3-2. Um, they can definitely beat Philly once, in my opinion. They could edge out one of those games against Philly the way Philly's playing, unless they like Philly just finds out a way to like chemistry wise just go together. We talked about Philly, but I don't want to talk more about them. But yeah, so I think they go 3-2. That's gonna be my prediction. They'll win those 2 games against Detroit and Indiana. They'll edge one out against Philly. So that's it for the Eastern Conference. Let's go to the Western Conference. Um, where's the West at? All right, there you go. Damn, my stuff is not loading right now. I don't know why. My fault, guys. Technical difficulties right here. Real workout. All right. Got it in. Okay. And let's start with the Pacific Division. You got the Golden State Warriors, who currently are 2-1, defending champs. They're playing amazing style of basketball. They lost to the Denver Nuggets in a close game. It was a really really good game if you didn't watch it. We talked about the Lakers game last week, where they beat the Lakers 123-109. This Denver game was a really really good game because Denver was in control throughout the whole game. But then late in the fourth, I'm pretty sure, the Warriors just took over. They made it into a close game. But it was a couple of shots like Clay took like with 10 seconds left, down three, took like a near half court three. It went wide right. Wasn't a good shot. But I guess in Clay standards, it was a pretty good shot. And they beat Sacktown 130 to 125. It was a close game up until the second, like the second half of the second quarter. It was a close game, and then Steph Curry just took over. I think they scored like 89. It was like 89 to 61 or something. It was like 54-51, and then the end score of the half, I turned the game off. I had to go do something, and then it was like 89 to 61. I was like, what just happened? And I think Steph Curry just went berserk in that second quarter. But then this it was the Warriors game until the fourth quarter, and the Kings just went off. De'Aaron Fox just went off, and Malik Monk. It was just some bad shots for the Kings. They could have won this game. I think they had like a couple of wide open threes at the end of the game, which Steve Kerr would definitely did not look happy, too happy about. Um, which they could have stopped, but the Kings just didn't hit those. So the Warriors are 2-1 currently. They look pretty good, championship form. Steph Curry like 33, 34, and 33. He's been playing amazing. Over 30 a game. In their next 5 is against Phoenix tonight, Miami, Charlotte, Detroit on Sunday, and Miami on the 1st of November, next Tuesday in a week. Um, I could see them going 4-1, I guess. Um, they'll probably lose one of those games against Miami, but I think they'll beat Phoenix, they'll beat Miami once, and they'll beat Charlotte and Detroit. So I could see them going 4-1 in the next five. Um, so yeah, that's enough about the Warriors talk. If you don't know, I am a Warriors fan. So, ooh, so else. So let's go to the Clippers, who are 2-1 as well. Um, they won against the Lakers their first game on Thursday, and they won against SAC 111-109. It was a really close game. I think that was the game Kawhi Leonard and John Wall sat out. Paul George had 40 that game, and they lost against Phoenix 112-95. That was the game they came back, which was on Sunday. I was surprised they lost that game. I thought the Clippers would definitely edge that game out. But this team looks pretty good. They're super super deep. They got like 7 players who can score 17 plus a game. They got Kawhi Leonard is still taking that load management, and I'm fine with that. That was the front. I think it was a back to back. He took the front end of a back to back off, and he played on Sunday against Phoenix. But yeah, I think this team can definitely. They're still a top team in the West. They can probably they'll probably be like a top 3 team. And I'm still convinced that those top 3 teams are going to be Denver, Golden State, and LA, the Clippers, not the Lakers. But I'm still convinced that that's going to be the top 3 so far in the West, and quite possibly it could change. Maybe the Grizzlies come up, maybe New Orleans comes up. You never know. Those like teams right there, like the Phoenix Suns as well. They can definitely jump up if like their chemistry. I mean, Grizzlies already have chemistry, but if they just Ja Morant just goes off for the Grizzlies, goes MVP mode, they can definitely take one of those 3 spots. The next 5 are against OKC. They're going to OKC on a road trip. And then New Orleans, which is going to be a really, really good game. Tune in for that. This is on Sunday. Monday and Wednesday, they're playing back-to-backs against Houston. That's gonna be pretty fun to watch. They're facing OKC tonight actually, but I think they can go 4-1, possibly 5-0. I feel like there's no way they're going to lose against both those OKC games or Houston. The only game I see them losing is against New Orleans. It is possible they get 3-2 and one of those teams do upset them and win. Houston did beat the Jazz last night, the undefeated Jazz last night. But we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, my prediction is 4-1. If they do lose, they're probably going to lose to the New Orleans Pelicans, which is in the middle right there. Next is the Lakers, who are 0-3. This is the story of the NBA right now. What should the Lakers do with Russell Westbrook? Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. Should you trade him? Should you keep him? Should you just send him home so he doesn't ruin how good this team could be with Russ on the bench? So just send him home completely and try to figure out something like in the lines of like a trade. They lost 3 bad games against Golden State, which quite possibly everybody thought that they're going to lose. They lost a close game against the Clippers, and they lost a really, really close game. It was a really good game against the Portland Trailblazers, the 4-0 Portland Trailblazers. I don't know what to say. They definitely, in my opinion, they definitely should trade Russell Westbrook. If that there's a report that came out that Jazz trade is still on the table for the Lakers if they want to make that trade of Mike Conley, I think of Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, and Rudy Gay. And that Pacers trade is still on the table as well, Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. I don't know which trade I would do, but the Lakers are hesitant to trade him at this point of the season. I mean, in my opinion, I would kind of wait till Thanksgiving break, see who's available, see how this team is playing, see how Russell Westbrook is playing. In that Blazers game, I don't know if you guys saw this clip. It's going all around Twitter where it was, I think, 103. It was 10. It was, I think, 102, 101, something like that. The Lakers were up by one or something like that. It was up by 1 or 2 with like 30 seconds left. Russell Westbrook got the rebound, came down the court. Um, LeBron and AD are to his left. They're coming up with him. LeBron is kind of calling for the ball, and then he sees Russell Westbrook ISOing. I forgot who was on him. And he just, I think it's Nurkic on him, and he just stepped back. Like Nurkic just stepped back to the paint. Russell's wide open for the midi, and he just pulls up for the midi. And you could see it was like 20 something seconds left in the shot clock, and you see LeBron like waving his hands like, what are you doing, man? What do you like? There's 20 seconds left on the clock. We were up by 1 or 2. We have time in our favor, and he said it was for a 2-for-1. Bro, you're up. Why would you go for a 2-for-1 when you're up? That makes no sense. And it was 30 seconds left with 20 seconds left on the shot clock. You could have passed out to AD, possibly gotten a better shot with LeBron having the ball. You know, he could have drove and kick out to, I think Austin Reeves was on the floor at that time, and Lonnie Walker. He could just kicked it out to them. Maybe they would have been wide open for a three with that driving kick. Made no sense. I don't know what's going on with that team. The next 5 are against Denver, Minnesota, Denver again, New Orleans, and Utah. That's a tough schedule again. They've had a tough schedule to start off their year. And after Utah, they're facing the Clippers again on ESPN on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, actually. So this is gonna be a really, really tough schedule for this team. I could see them going like 1-4. Maybe they'll beat Utah. I'm gonna go 1-4. They could go 2-3 as well, but I'm gonna say 1-4 for the Lakers at this point. Next is the Phoenix Suns, who currently are 2-1. With all that drama surrounding this team, that started this team with Robert Sarver, with DeAndre Ayton stuff. This team is playing pretty decent. They won that game against Dallas, which was a Damian Lee game winner. They lost against Portland in overtime, 113-111, and then they won against the Clippers, which we talked about on Sunday, 112-95. I didn't watch that game, so I can't really talk about that game that much. But D-Book had 35 in that game. And that Blazers game was a really, really tough loss for them because DeAndre Ayton was at the free throw line. I mean, Dame was in his ear saying, "Have you ever been in a situation you weren't ready?" I don't think he said you weren't ready for this, but he was like, "Have you ever been in a situation?" He was kind of like taunting him in a way, trying to get in his head, and I think he did. DeAndre Ayton missed the first free throw. Actually, he missed both of them. But the second was an intentional miss to get the rebound. They did get the rebound. Jock Londo got the rebound. I think it went behind Yusuf Nurkic's back. Yusuf Nurkic, I think, overdid it. I think he thought the ball would go somewhere else, and he went somewhere else. So yeah, so Jock Londo got the rebound, tried to bank it in. I think he wasn't even looking at the rim. He wasn't even looking at the hoop. I think he just threw it up, and it missed. He tried to throw it up. He tried to bank it off. It didn't go in. But yeah, they lost a close game to the Blazers. They could have been 3-0 right now, but you know it's all good. They're playing amazing. CP is averaging like 11 assists a game. D-Book's playing pretty decent. He had 28 the first game, 33 the second against the Blazers, and 35 against the Clippers. The next 5 is against Warriors tonight. They're facing New Orleans, Houston, Minnesota, and Portland again. They're actually going back-to-back on Portland at home. So I could see them going 3-2. I see them losing against the Warriors. They could probably edge out a win against the Pels and the Rockets. They'll probably win or lose one of those Minnesota and Portland games. So that's why I'm going to go 3-2. Yeah, that's gonna be my prediction for the next 5, 3-2, definitely. Next is the Sacramento Kings, who are 0-3. but they don't feel. It doesn't feel like they're 0-3. It feels like they're 3-0 or 2-1. All of them have been really really close games. Even against Portland, that was an amazing game to watch. Against the Clippers too, that was a really really close game as well. And against the Warriors too, even though they were down a lot, they fought back, and they really fought back. And Mike Brown is doing his kid thing on the for this team. He's an amazing coach for this team. He's really motivating them to make that playoff play and push. And I think they definitely could, even though they're 0-3. This is the start of the season. All three of those losses have been close games. And I have hope for this team. Unlike the Lakers team, they're 0-3 as well. But I have hope for this team right here. This 0-3 that does not seem like an 0-3. That 0-3 for the Lakers seems like an 0-3. They are an amazing team. Darren Fox is averaging like 30 something points per game. He dropped 33 in the first one, 36 in the second against the Clippers, and 26 against the Warriors on Sunday night. And I can definitely see them making a play-in push. They have a really, really good team around De'Aaron Fox. I mean, the defensive end, I think it will take some time to make De'Aaron Fox into a defender. That's why I think they hired Mike Brown as a coach. Because De'Aaron Fox is like a cone out there on defense, man. He always gets attacked on by players for his defense because of his defensive liability for this team. They're not a good defensive team. That's why I think they brought in Mike Brown to cancel that out from Domantas Sabonis isn't that good of a defender as well. So yeah, in the next 5 games is against Memphis, Miami, Charlotte, Miami again, and Orlando. I could see them, edging it out to. Should I go with Damn, let's go. I'm gonna go with 2-3. I'm actually gonna go 3-2. They'll probably edge out a win against either Miami, Memphis, and then they'll beat Charlotte. So that's 1 right there. That's 2. So I think they'll win 2 of those 3. They'll also beat Orlando. So yeah, so they'll edge out one of those Miami, Memphis, those 2 Miami games, one of those Memphis games, and they'll beat Charlotte and Orlando. So I see them going 3-2. And in my opinion, they'll definitely make the play-in. They're too good of a team to not make the play-in. But we'll see how that turns out as well. Next is the Denver Nuggets, who are 2-2 right now. They lost against They lost their first game against Utah, which is really really surprising. They lost their first game against Utah. They won against Golden State. They won against OKC, and they lost against Portland last night, 135-110. That game that Anthony Simon just went off. Like he had like 1 quarter where it was like 22. We'll talk about that later on with the Portland Trailblazers, who are 4-0 now. But yeah, I still think this team, like I said, the Clippers and Warriors, this team's still in that tier of because Jamal Murray has not been playing that much. He's on minutes restriction, and Coach Mike Malone did say that he will be on a minutes restriction at the start of the season. So he will be missing significant amount of time to start the season. I don't think he'll play back-to-backs. And he probably won't play back-to-backs. I don't think he played in that Warriors game, even though they won that game. He'll probably be missing back-to-backs. He'll definitely be missing games here and there. Be on a minutes restriction, like under 25 minutes a game, around 25 minutes a game. But we'll see how that turns out for this Lakers team. The next 5 is against the Lakers, Utah, Lakers again, OKC, and San Antonio. I could definitely see them going like 4-1. They could probably lose. They'll probably lose one of those Lakers games. They could go 5-0. They could go 5-0 in this next 5. But I'm gonna go 4-1. Just stay safe with that. On the safe side, let's just go 4-1. I'll say they'll probably lose one of those games. Maybe they'll beat Lakers twice. Maybe they lose to Utah again. We'll see how that turns out. Next is Minnesota Timberwolves, who are currently 2-2 as well. They also lost to Utah in their second game, but they beat OKC in their first game. They beat OKC again on Sunday, and they lost last night to the Spurs. were 3-1. Surprisingly, the Spurs are 3-1. If I put my whole hand on that mic, I think that interrupts that signal. But the Spurs are 3-1 who they lost to. Um, they beat OKC twice. They lost to that Jazz game. They haven't played any good significant teams. I don't think they will until Phoenix, which is on the first, which is next Tuesday. That's their first big game of the season. They'll be facing bad teams. I think they're facing the Spurs twice. So their next five is Spurs, Lakers, Spurs, Phoenix, and Milwaukee. They'll face the Spurs twice. They'll face the Lakers in there. And they're facing Phoenix and Milwaukee. In the next five, I think they'll go like 3-2. I could see them going 3-2, possibly 4-1. But I'm gonna go 3-2 in the next five. But on their scoring side, Anthony Edwards has dropped back-to-back 30-point games against the Spurs. The Jazz and the Thunder. But Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns are starting to mesh a little better together. They're running more pick and rolls for D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert. Rudy's playing how Rudy plays. Kat is playing like how Kat plays. So it's not like they're interrupting each other's offense. It's just Kat is becoming more of a spot up shooter now. When they were running those pick and rolls with D'Lo and Rudy Gobert. So in their next five, I think they will go like 3-2. They could go 4-1, but my thinking is they'll go 3-2. But the last 0-3 team in the West is Oklahoma City Thunder, who we're going to talk about right now. They lost to the Timberwolves, they lost to the Nuggets, and they lost to the Timberwolves again. Shea didn't play in the last game, I think, due to some injury. They're in clear contention. They're the clear front runners in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Because the Jazz are just winning games, the Spurs are just winning games. The only contention for them is, I think, the Pacers, and I think this is the Pacers or the Pistons, but I think the Pistons are going to be pretty good. The next five is against the Clippers, back-to-back games against the Clippers, Dallas, Orlando, and Denver. They'll probably go 1-4. They'll probably beat Orlando, and they'll lose against Dallas, 2 games against the Clippers, and they lose against Denver again. So we'll see how they play. They're just trying to tank for Wembanyama. That's obviously clear the way they're playing right now. Next is the Portland Trailblazers, the only 4-0 team in the league right now, the only undefeated team. Oh no, the Bucks are undefeated as well, but they've only played 2 games. The Blazers have played 4 games and they're undefeated. They beat the Kings, the Suns, the Lakers, and Denver. They beat 3 good teams in the Kings, Phoenix, and Denver. Dame is going back to how good Dame plays. He dropped back-to-back 41-point games. He had back-to-back 41-point games. He had 31 last night against Denver. But their main piece against Denver last night, the main story for them was Anthony Simons, who dropped 22, I think, in the third quarter, which just made them go off, and they won 135-110 last night. They're facing tomorrow. Tomorrow they're facing the Heat. They're facing the Rockets. They're facing Memphis, and they're facing Phoenix on back-to-backs on Friday and Saturday. They can go. I think I said that when I was talking about the Heat early in this episode. I think the Heat will be the team to snap their 4-game winning streak. So I think they'll go like 3-2. They'll beat Houston. They'll win one of those games. Though I think they'll beat Memphis and they'll win one of those games against Phoenix. So I think they'll go 3-2 in the next 5. Next, let's go to the Utah Jazz, who are 3-1, who are about to become the same tier as the Portland Trailblazers did, but they lost a very close game, 114-108 to the Rockets. But Lauri Markkanen's All-Star arc has just started. Lauri Markkanen's been playing amazing. That's been a biggest story for me. For this team is Lauri Markkanen. I think he's having 23 and like 11 or 12. If he keeps up this play, he can definitely become an All-Star. but they're gonna have to start winning games if he wants to become an all-star. They're facing the Rockets again on Wednesday. Then they're facing Denver, Memphis back to back, and then they're facing Dallas. They can go like 2-3. Yeah, I think they'll go 2-3 in this next five. They'll probably win one of those games against Memphis and they'll win against Houston. So yeah, I think they'll go 2-3 in the next five. But this team looks pretty decent. And if I was Danny Ainge, I made this team to for Wembanyama to contend for the Wembanyama sweepstakes, but we're just contending for the playing spot at this point. So I'll see if I was Danny Ainge, I would see if I could trade one of those three pieces right now, which are Jordan Clarkson, Mike Conley, and Lauren Markkinen. I don't think they'll trade Lauren Markkinen. They'll keep Lauren Markkinen on this team, but yeah, if I was them, I'd look to trade one of those pieces right there, like Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson. The report of him getting traded to the getting traded to the Lakers for Russell Westbrook. I'd see if that deal was still on the table, and I would do that deal. Because even with Russell Westbrook, he just does amazing on bad teams. So even if you got Russell Westbrook, they could still make the playoffs or the play-ins with Lauren Markkinen as well. So we'll see how the Jazz play in the next five. So yeah, I think they'll go 2-3. The next is the Dallas Mavericks, who will also play two games. We're 1-1. They lost against Phoenix 107-105, that close game, their first game of the season, and they won against Saturday against Memphis Grizzlies. Luka is just playing Luka style. 32-35 in the first two games. Christian Wood has been playing amazing. I think he's averaging like 21 a game. He's the perfect co-partner alongside Luka. I saw a Twitter post where it said Christian Wood is what Kristaps wanted to be. I think I'm phrasing that wrong, but Christian Wood is the player that they needed, and they wanted Kristaps to be Christian Wood. I'm probably phrasing that horribly wrong, my fault. But yeah, Christian Wood has just been playing amazing, and that's like their co-star right now, and that's a perfect co-star for Luka Doncic at this point right now. Their next five games are against the Pels, Brooklyn, OKC, Orlando, and Utah. They can go like 3-2. They'll probably beat OKC and Orlando and Utah. So I think they could go 3-2. They'll probably lose to New Orleans or Brooklyn. They could go 4-1. They could go 2-3. But in my opinion, they'll go 3-2. They'll lose to New Orleans and Brooklyn. They're facing New Orleans tonight on TNT on Tuesday night, and then they're facing Brooklyn on Thursday, and then those three games of OKC, Orlando, and Utah. I think they'll edge those out, and they can go 3-2 in the next five. Next is the Houston Rockets, who are 3-1. 1-3. My fault. They lost against Atlanta. They lost 3-1 against Atlanta, Memphis, and Milwaukee. They beat Utah last night, stopping their 3-game win streak. I don't see where this team is gonna go. They're in contention for the Wembanyama sweepstakes as well. Jabari Smith, he's starting to play pretty decent. I think he had like 17-10. I saw a stat last night. He's the first player since Hakeem to average, I think, like 15 to score 15 plus in his first four games as a rookie for the Rockets. So that's a pretty big achievement, I guess, if you think about it. But yeah, I think Jabari Smith is starting to find his footing in this league. Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. are the perfect backcourt for this team. They're just taking turns dropping 20 bombs, 20, 30 bombs. KPJ had 21 in the first game, 33 for Jalen Green against Memphis, 22 against Milwaukee on Saturday, and then KPJ last night had 26. KPJ is definitely living up to his contract extension. Sorry about that. The Rockets probably got a steal with this contract deal, and it was an amazing deal for the Rockets, I guess, if you think about it. Next is their next five games are against Utah, Portland, Phoenix, and back-to-back against the Clippers. They could go like 1-3. They'll probably edge out one against Utah. No, actually, I thought I said they'll probably go 0-5. They'll probably go 0-5. Maybe they could edge out one game against the Clippers, but I don't see that happening. So in my opinion, they'll go 0-5. I mean, that's that doesn't really matter to them. They're trying to lose. So I don't think I would be concerned with that. Um, we're coming down to the last four teams left to go over in the Western Conference and in the whole league. You have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 3-1 currently. They beat the Knicks in that overtime game. Um, they they won against the Rockets. They lost against Dallas, and they won against um the Nets last night, which is a really good game as well. John Morant has just been playing amazing. He's dropped 34, 49, 20, and 38. He's just doing John Morant things. Um, Next is their next five is against Sac, Utah, back to back since Utah. They will be traveling there, and Portland and Charlotte. They could go like 4-1 at best. I think they go 3-2. They'll probably lose against Sac and Portland because Sac is hunting for that first win. So I think they'll go like 4-1. No, 3-2. That's it. Yeah, 3-2. They'll win against those two. They'll win those two games against Utah, and they'll win against Charlotte as well. So let's go to the Pelicans. I think we're down to the last two, the Spurs and Pelicans. I think I said three, but we're down to the last two with the Spurs and Pelicans. The Pelicans are currently 2-1. They won against Brooklyn, their first opening game, where Zion and Bi just went off. I think they're like 25 plus each. They won against Charlotte. 124, 112, and they lost in overtime. I think on Sunday, 122, 120, which is an amazing game. I suggest you guys go watch the highlights for this game. The NBA also has like these fantastic finishes with where they like show uncut footage of the last like 4 minutes of like amazing games. They did that with this game as well. If you guys just want to go watch that, that was an amazing game. This was a game where Zion did get hurt. I think he fell on his back. I don't know how long he's gonna be out. There's no timetable right now. I think it was might be a couple of games where he comes back. But that was a scary fall. I think he was going up for no, it was a layup or a dunk. I think he landed wrong. Or was it a block? I'm not sure. It's not coming off the top of my head. But that's a huge story for them missing Zion this early in the season as well. With some injury issues, but I hope he comes back healthy. But they're 2-1. This team does not. I'm not worried about this team. Their next five is against Dallas, Phoenix, Clippers, LA, and Golden State. Five amazing teams except the Lakers. I think they can go like 4-1. I mean, they'll probably go like 2-3. They'll win two of those games. One against the Lakers, they'll definitely win, in my opinion. And then they'll probably win one of those games against Dallas, Phoenix, Clippers, or Golden State, or the Warriors. We'll see how that turns out for them. So in my opinion, they'll go 2-3 in the next five. They just need Zion back healthy, and he definitely will come back healthy. I see them definitely making. I was really high on them in the standing predictions. If you saw that, I was like, I think I had them fourth or fifth. And most people, most experts had them like in the play-in. So I was really high on them, and I still am. I think they can definitely be a really good team. Next, last team, 29th team of our review of the first week of the NBA season is the San Antonio Spurs, who are currently 3-1, surprisingly, who are just winning games, being a part of the Wembanyama sweepstakes. They're in the same boat as the Jazz, but they lost their first game against the Hornets, 129-102, and everybody just thought, oh, it's the Spurs. They're definitely gonna, tank now. They're definitely in a tank job. But that's not right. That's not true. They won against the Pacers. They beat two good teams after beating the Pacers, the Sixers, and the Timberwolves. I could definitely see them. Maybe I don't know if they would try to make a play-in if this is a team that could make a play-in. It's just the Devin Vassell and Cullen Johnson show. Devin Vassell has been amazing. He's been surprising to me how good he's been playing. he can. He's definitely gonna. He's an amazing 3-and-D wing. He's a lot of star potential in him. Same with Cullen Johnson. He can. Those two can be amazing pieces for this team in the future. We'll see how that turns out. Their next 5 is against Minnesota, Chicago, Minnesota again, Toronto, and the Clippers. They're facing Minnesota 3 of the next 4 games. I mean, they faced Minnesota last night, which they won. Um, but currently, I think they can go like 2-3, maybe 1-4. They're facing all good teams. They'll probably win one of those Minnesota games again, or Minnesota might go ahead and have a revenge game and win both those games. But I think they can go 1-4. They can win one of those games against those good teams. Maybe you can see Colin Johnson go off or Devin Vassell. You never know. I think that's it for this episode. If you guys haven't noticed, this is a video podcast, so I'll try to mix them up with a video and audio. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Go if you're on Apple or wherever you listen, whatever audio platform you listen on. Go on YouTube, like this, subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So I'll see you guys. I don't know when I'm gonna record episode 7. This was like a megasode, huge, big one. So I'll see you guys in episode 7. Stay safe till then. Peace.